Enough time left for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Up first, the good. A police officer going above and beyond to help a teenager learn how to tie a tie. Officer Prince going step by step with a young man at a school in California. The officer recently graduated from the police academy after serving 8 years as a U.S. Marine. Great story. Now the bad. Colorado Mountain College now paying for DACA students to get an education up front. It's called the Dream Fund. It gives them $3,000 per year. After graduation, they owe the college 4% of their earnings over 60 months. But if they don't make more than $30,000, they don't have to pay it back at all. And California Governor Jerry Brown has vetoed a bill requiring middle and high schools in the state to start no earlier than 8:30 a.m. The liberal leader thinks that it should be up to the schools and not the state to make that decision. Supporters of the bill say delaying start times could lead to better grades, attendance, and graduation rates. Don't know what I think about that one. That wraps up this hour of Fox and Friends First. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday. Fox and Friends First continues right now. Bye-bye.
It's Friday, September 21st. Supreme conditions. Judge Brett Kavanaugh's accuser says she'll testify, but only on her own terms.
Only on her own terms. Will the Supreme Court nominee get the chance to clear his name? Or will Democrats stop at nothing to kill his confirmation? We're live at our nation's Capitol.
I just know that on that Tuesday, she was happy. I think that she came to this corner, she was listening to her favorite song, doing her favorite activity, and then went home to heaven.
And from planning a wedding to planning a funeral, the family of a jogger stabbed to death in D.C. trying to make sense of a nightmare.
Their message to the community in an interview you will only see right here. And his anthem-kneeling quarterback Colin Kaepernick lacing up his cleats.
The new rumors of a big return to the field, Fox and Friends First, continues right now. Right outside our building. Good morning. Come on in. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Friday morning. I'm Pete Hegseth in for Rob Schmidt.
And I'm Jackie Vine. It's the last Friday of summer, Pete.
Is it really?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Summer was already over in my head.
What?
Absolutely.
Not me. I'm living it.
Labor Day, done.
Well, not us here.
You're optimistic. I like that.
Right, yes.
I like it.
All right, good morning, and thanks for joining us. The woman accused Judge Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault now willing to testify, but under specific condition. This as Judge Kavanaugh doubles down on taking the stand as soon as possible.
Our own Doug Luzader is live in Washington, D.C. with what happens next. Doug, good morning.
Good morning. Well, we now have this list of demands coming from Kavanaugh accuser Christine Blasey Ford. This may just be an opening gambit, though, because at least one of these items seems like a bridge too far. Here is that list of demands. First of all, no questions from lawyers, only from members of the Judiciary Committee. Kavanaugh is not allowed in the room, and Judge Kavanaugh must testify first. That final point is going to be an issue. In legal proceedings, in the interest of fairness, the accused is almost always given a chance to respond to allegations, and that demand would essentially turn that principle on its head. It's not clear whether Ford would be willing to give on that point. We'll see how these negotiations play out. Democrats say the process is unfair, and the burden of proof should be on Kavanaugh.
The option is show up Monday or don't show up at all. I consider that to be something set up for failure. They would like a he said, she said scenario. Because you know what happens in those scenarios? The men are typically believed because you see those issues through your own lens.
Wow. When I walked into the studio tonight, there was a presumption of innocence, and you did not have to prove your innocence. So I'm a little surprised at what the senator from New York said.
All right, at a rally last night in Las Vegas, President Trump again said that the process needs to be allowed to play out, but he did again voice his support for Kavanaugh.
To take a man like this and besmirch. Now, with that being said, let her have her say, and let's see how it all works out. But I don't think you can delay it any longer. They've delayed it a week already.
As for Kavanaugh, he did issue a statement again denying these allegations and expressing his hope, Pete and Jackie, that this process plays out quickly. He would like to have this hearing take place next week.
Absolutely.
Doug, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, well, if you stayed up late last night, you saw a great show on Hannity. President Trump blasting Democrats for obstructing his plans to build a border wall while touting America's success abroad to the packed Las Vegas crowd.
Democrats want to open borders, which equals massive crime coming into our country. Republicans want strong borders, and we want no crime. We're going to make our country stronger than ever before. We're not ever going to apologize to other countries for our great success or for our great country. We really have turned it around. We're respected again as a country. Before I came in, it looked like we were going to war with North Korea. Now we made a lot of progress. Relationships are getting better and better. And we have our hostages back, and there's no more nuclear testing, and there's no testing of missiles and rockets over Japan. We're doing well, and we're getting our remains back. Very important. We believe no American should be left behind.
The president is heading to Springfield, Missouri today, where he will hold another Make America Great Again rally. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, that chilling Bible verse listed as the Rite Aid shooting suspect's favorite quote on Facebook. Police say Snosha Mosley shot 6 co-workers at the warehouse where she worked before turning the gun on herself. 3 of those workers died. Police now searching for a motive this morning, but one co-worker claims she came into work wanting to, quote, pick a fight.
And the mother of a teen brutally murdered by MS-13 will be laid to rest next to her daughter today. Evelyn Rodriguez was hit and killed by a car last Friday after a confrontation with a neighbor about a memorial for her child. It was 2 years to the day that her daughter, 16-year-old Akela Cuevas, was stabbed to death by the gang. Rodriguez, as you know, was an advocate against MS-13 and a special guest at the president's State of the Union address.
The House Judiciary Committee now threatening to subpoena Bruce Orr's wife after refusing multiple requests to voluntarily testify. Nellie Orr worked as a contractor for Fusion GPS, the firm behind the fake anti-Trump dossier. Republican lawmakers believe her testimony could support their claims that there was bias against President Trump within the FBI and DOJ. Bruce Orr testified last month about his relationship with the dossier's author, ex-British spy Christopher Steele.
Oh, Nellie. All right, President Trump identifying the remains of 2 U.S. soldiers. Very cool story. Recovered from North Korea. Army Master Sergeant Charles McDaniel from Indiana died in the Korean War at the age of 32. And Private First Class William Jones from North Carolina. He was just 19 years old when he was killed in the war. Their remains handed over by North Korea following President Trump's historic summit with Kim Jong-un. Great to have those 2 men back.
Well, the recovery efforts in the wake of Florence are far from over. First responders still saving lives in the Carolinas, just as some communities are finally seeing signs of floodwaters receding.
Our own Griff Jenkins joins us live from Fayetteville, North Carolina, where he spoke to service members containing the devastation. Griff, good morning.
Good morning, Pete and Jackie. Yeah, they're in recovery mode here in Fayetteville, big cleanup. But believe it or not, waters are still rising in southeastern North Carolina and South Carolina. As the governor visited Fayetteville here yesterday, talking with the rescue firemen, the squads that have worked so hard around the clock. He also notes that the cooperation with the administration has been going well. Here's some of what he had to say.
Hundreds upon hundreds of rescues have occurred. I'm grateful to the men and women who do this. Amazing how we were able to pull together as Americans to get this job done. I spoke with and met with the president for a couple of hours. FEMA is giving us what we need at this moment. They have promised help in the long haul. We're going to hold them to it.
The governor also saying that we're not out of the woods yet, and a big part of this entire operation has come from Fort Bragg. No stranger, Pete, you know how big that base is, and the commanding general, Chris Mohan of the 3rd Expeditionary Sustainment Command, talked to me yesterday about the role that they've played. Listen.
I think we have 16 separate teams out all across the eastern part of North Carolina, and those teams are out, and we still got a ways to go because, as you know, the floodwaters that might be receding here in Fayetteville, all that water is being pushed down towards the coast.
Those brave soldiers leapt into action literally as the storm waters hit and rose. You know, it's going to be probably months, if not years, before this is really all over. And it is both those rescue squads you saw here in Fayetteville, as well as the Army, the National Guard, and everyone else. It's going to have to keep playing a part for now. Pete, Jackie?
Griff, thank you. You've been doing yeoman's work on the ground for quite some time. Thanks for bringing that to us.
Thank you.
All right, on another story, disgraced former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick's attorney now hinting at a return to the football field.
I would just say stay tuned, that next week there may be some news.
Kaepernick's attorney suggesting to TMZ Sports that the Raiders and or the Patriots could be interested in signing him. It comes as We Know Better Than You, Harvard University, prepares to give him the W.E.B. Du Bois Medal next month following his national anthem protest. I could not think of people better to get it than him. Past recipients of the award include folks that deserve it, like Muhammad Ali and Oprah Winfrey.
Well, there you have it. Here's two words Cleveland fans were worried they would never hear again. Browns win. The Browns beating the New York Jets 21-17 for the first win in almost 2 years.
In a comeback win, the rookie comes in, Baker Mayfield, in the second quarter, and leads them to a victory. But the big story is the bars across the city unleashing victory fridges, handing out free Bud Light to all the citizens of Cleveland. Check it out.
Well, the Cleveland police tweeting out this: "We won. Wait, the free beer thing. Okay, Cleveland, stay calm. Go Browns."
And Tom saying, haven't even left downtown Cleveland, and I've seen 3 fans passed out on sidewalks. Cleveland, stay classy.
It sounds like a good time.
Staying true to form,
Cleveland.
but you watch those fridge open up. Free beer. Took
That's
them
what
over
happens.
600 days to win. All right, well, the time now is 10 minutes after the top of the hour. Brett Kavanaugh's accuser says she'll testify, but not until he goes first and on her terms. Democrats, they've got no plans to expedite the process.
This is being done for pure political purposes with no concern whatsoever for the Constitution or the Senate. Shame on them all.
Well, is the left latching on to these accusations to distract us from a disgraceful confirmation process? We're going to debate it coming up next.
Faith, family, and football, 3 pillars of life in the South, but Friday night lights just got dim at one school over their prayer ritual. The complaint that's got the town all fired up this morning. Next, don't go anywhere.
How do you win at business?
Moms, we can't wait.
Welcome back. Well, Kavanaugh accuser Christine Blasey Ford says she's open to testifying only if her requests are met and after the date set for her hearing. Should lawmakers cave to these conditions, or are Democrats using her to pull the wool over our eyes while they trample a confirmation process? Here to debate it is the former GOP chair in Nevada, Amy Tarkanian, and Democratic strategist Robin Bureau. Thank you both for being here this morning. Amy, I want to start with you. So it looked like a very straightforward confirmation process. Then came this, calls for testifying. What should happen next in this process?
Well, I believe that it's important to hear both sides, and if this accuser is actually willing to speak, then we need to hear from her. But I don't like the fact that she's changing her mind so often on what she would actually like to do, and then she goes back and says she needs to go and have further discussion with her attorney. And it seems that this is going around and around in circles, and now it actually does seem like it's being politicized, which is unfortunate, because then that minimizes actual people who have been victimized and sexually assaulted. I think that at this point, if her requests are going to be met, then we do need to hear from her, but we need to move forward and make sure that we approve Judge Kavanaugh.
You know, Robin, the president and other Republicans have said we want her to be heard. That's an important part of this process. But would you acknowledge that once she is heard and that a confirmation vote, if it's a he said, she said situation, how does it change anything?
Ooh, that's a tough one, Pete, and that's really going to be up to the Senate Republicans and the rest of the Senate
Democrats
to
have already
decide
decided they're against him no matter what.
Right? Yeah, well, I like Amy said, I really hate that this is being politicized. But you know, Monday was an arbitrary date that they set, so as long as her other requests are met, I really think that it's important that we do hear from her. She's a working mother, and she's had death threats, and she's just concerned about her security detail. So I think that if we can accommodate that, I think that's a perfectly reasonable request. It's not unusual for her to just say, hey, Monday doesn't work for me. Can we do another day next week? I don't think there's anything wrong with that personally.
Well, Amy, here are Robin mentioned the requests. Here they are that Christine Blasey Ford has. She said only members of the committee can question her, not lawyers. Kavanaugh cannot be in the room, and Kavanaugh has to be questioned before her. So, Amy, well, how does Kavanaugh get a chance to defend himself if he's testifying and she brings new allegations or new things? Her going second means she has the last word.
That's a really good question, because that really does then play into the he said, she said. So how does he get to have a fair say in all of this? This is something that happened so long ago that she herself doesn't even remember where it took place, when it took place, who exactly was all there. It seems very, very fishy to me. But you know, if it comes to the point where we just need to listen to her side, whether if it's public or private, fine. Let's hear from her, and then we can hear then from Judge Kavanaugh and move on. It's time to move on. It's time to go ahead and approve Judge Kavanaugh.
Robin, would you at least acknowledge that there's a bit of a double standard here with Democrats number 2, Keith Ellison, facing verifiable recent charges of sexual assault, and yet 36 years ago is what's being talked about. Do you think it should be applied consistently?
Oh, most definitely. I think that this is a very convenient look. This is just not good. Keith Ellison, there's evidence there. She's provided medical records.
Should he drop out of the race then? Should he drop out of the race?
Yeah, I don't know about dropping out of the race, but I think that he should step down. And I've already talked with the DNC. They've got a procedure in place, and Jamie Harrison would be my pick to step in and fill his shoes. He's deputy director right now.
Well,
Sorry, associate director.
Amy and Robin, thank you very much for your time this morning. A debate that's certainly going to continue. We will be right back. Thank you both.
You can't just
Welcome back. It's now 21 minutes after the hour. Arizona is threatening to take away licenses for several shelters for migrant children following reports of rampant abuse. 8 Southwest key facilities under scrutiny after a state investigation into sexual abuse reports found that some shelters had not conducted fingerprint checks for all employees. The state now moving to revoke the licenses after the nonprofit missed a deadline to show all its workers pass background checks.
And an overwhelming majority, you'd call it a supermajority, of Amazon's employees appear to support the Democratic Party. A new study by GovPredict reveals that since 2006, 90% of workers' contributions at that company went to Democratic PACs, and only 10% went to Republicans. Since 2004, employees contributed nearly $611,000 to Hillary Clinton's former presidential campaign. Mitt Romney's that little tiny itty-bitty bar, $64,000. I bet the bar for President Trump, candidate Trump, probably even lower. All right, on another story. A lot of bias over there, just saying. Now let's go to the movies. The House with a Clock in Its Walls tells the story of a young boy who goes to live in his uncle's haunted house in an action-packed adventure just in time for Halloween.
There's a clock in the walls. We don't know what it does, except something horrible.
The star-studded film hits theaters today. So is it worth your box office bucks, or should you just go out to eat? Here with this review, Fox News contributor Kevin McCarthy. Hey, Kevin, this is what I want to see.
Yeah, good morning, Jackie and Pete. Yeah, honestly, you could eat and go to the movies. That's my favorite thing, a date night with my wife. We always do the dinner and a movie on a Friday night. But yeah, this is the new movie directed by Eli Roth. So Eli Roth is probably most known for his work with Quentin Tarantino or his work in R-rated horror films like Hostel and Cabin Fever. Now he's taking on a PG film in the sense of he's trying to bring back that old school PG horror type movie like Poltergeist or Gremlins, making it more family friendly versus the R-rated material he normally works with. clip. Now, the idea here is you have Jack Black, Cate Blanchett. As you mentioned, the plot line, you're dealing with a house that has a clock in its walls, literally from the title speaking itself. The movie has a lot of cool practical effects. There's some great horror elements to it as well. I think the great thing here is Eli Roth, if you're a fan of his films, you will notice his tone is still in these PG films, but makes it more available for family audiences. I thought the movie was a lot of fun. There's some moments where the script does feel a bit stiff and the dialogue feels a bit scripted at times, but overall I found the film enjoyable. I gave it a 3 out of 5. I wouldn't call it great by any means, but to me it was an entertaining film and maybe a good pathway if kids want to start watching maybe like more family-friendly films like this. This is definitely throwing it back to those old school Amblin days of those horror movies.
Got it. Well, we're going to stick in. We're going to get one more review from you now. Life Itself, another movie.
Yeah. This movie's getting a lot of bad reviews, unfortunately. I'm trying to figure out why. Dan Fogelman, who created This Is Us, wrote and directed this film, Pete, and you're dealing with the idea of intersecting storylines that are all connected through one very random event that happened years ago, and the idea that one little event can shape dozens and dozens of lives over many, many years. This film just kind of hit me at the right time. I saw it after I left. I had a profound conversation with some friends about life in general and the macro level of life versus looking at everything from a micro level. The cast is absolutely incredible. Olivia Cook, you have Olivia Wilde, you have a huge cast, Oscar Isaac from the Star Wars films. To me, it's an R-rated This Is Us. That's a lot of people are comparing it to that idea of putting an R-rated stamp on a This Is Us emotional element. I think there's some manipulation here emotionally, of course, and I think that's one of the criticisms behind the film is that it manipulates the audience a bit too emotionally, but overall, I found it to be very clever, very Tarantino-esque in the nonlinear storytelling. Great performances. Mandy Patinkin is fantastic in the movie as well. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Again, the reviews are very bad, scathing, hatred reviews for this film, and I'm in the minority on this one. I actually thought it was very, very well done. I don't think it's great, again, by any means, but a very solid film that has some great things to say and profound messages about life. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5.
Kevin, we appreciate you're never afraid to be a contrarian, which is a good thing when you're a movie critic.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Pete. Thanks, Jackie. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
All right. Well, it is 26 minutes after the top of the hour, and the family of a murdered jogger in Washington, D.C., they're overcome with grief, now turning to faith.
I am in peace. I have forgiven that person because I am a Christian, and Wendy was a child of God too.
Our own Jillian Mealy is live in Washington with the questions police are working around the clock to answer this morning.
Today's
Welcome back. Well, a heartbroken mother says her daughter fought up to the last minute after being stabbed 7 times on a commonly used jogging trail in D.C.
Surveillance showing Wendy Martinez's final moments, that is, of life. Jillian Mealy joins us live from D.C. as police bring some closure to the family. Jillian, such a heartbreaking story this morning.
It really is, and her mother tells me she has no room for hate in her heart for 23-year-old Anthony Crawford. That's the man accused of killing her daughter. It was just last week Wendy was trying on wedding dresses with her mom, a dress they say they now plan to bury her in. We spoke with her family before a candlelight vigil last night.
What are your words about that man? What happened here at this corner? It's just awful.
It is awful. I think I'd be more mad if there was an actual motive behind it. But I know that Wendy was in her happiest moments of her life those last 6 days before it happened. Just got recently engaged to the love of her life. We were just up here last Thursday, so a week ago, to celebrate. We left on Monday, and now we're back here.
It appears, without any more information, to be so random. You know, you have a young woman in the prime of her life doing what, you know, a lot of people do on a daily basis. She's out there exercising. This is something apparently she loved to do. And for her to lose her life, it's just very scary.
Can you talk about the importance of police officers when they're on their beat, recognizing their surroundings, individuals in the community, recognizing their habits, their behavior, because that's ultimately what helped in this situation.
For the officers in the 3rd District to look at that video, have a pretty good sense of who that person was, and then even know the areas where he might be, I think it's a testament to the work those officers did. The people who provided tips in this case is really kind of the linchpin to being able to get a quick closure.
I just know that on that Tuesday, she was happy. I think that she came to this corner, she was listening to her favorite song, doing her favorite activity, and then went home to heaven.
Your pain is so, how do you get through this?
I am in peace.
You are.
I am in peace. I have forgiven that person. My heart doesn't have a room for hate or for resentfulness because I am a Christian and Wendy was a child of God too. So we just know that our strength is coming from Him, not anywhere else. So God knew, I didn't know. I just let it go.
The strength of that family, truly remarkable. And according to court documents, the 23-year-old suspect had a history of using K2, which is a synthetic form of marijuana. Police haven't confirmed whether or not that played a role in this, what they say is a completely random attack at this point. They say he has a criminal history, but nothing that helps them explain why he did this. Now, the family and police also note they don't want people to be afraid to be out in their communities, to be going for that jog, that evening or that afternoon jog, but of course, for people to be alert. Pete, Jackie?
Jillian, great reporting. Just the type of thing that hits home. Random, could happen to anybody.
Such a nice area.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Jillian.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. The woman accusing Judge Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault is now willing to testify, but under very specific conditions.
Christy, I should read now. Christy Blasey Ford's legal team says she will take the stand if and only if there are no questions from lawyers, if Judge Kavanaugh is not allowed in the room, and only if he testifies first.
And despite her list of demands, Judge Kavanaugh is doubling down, saying he is ready to testify as soon as possible.
Now I'm ready to read.
Here we go.
All right, the nature of Professor Ford's demands now facing intense scrutiny.
Former White House press secretary for President George W. Bush, Ari Fleischer, says her conditions go against the rules of due process.
In this case, Professor Ford should be entitled that right to make the accusation. Now, witnesses don't get to determine the rules of the United States Senate. Senators do. And there's a bipartisan process for these things. And that's where the accuser in this instance goes first, makes the case, and then in this case, Judge Kavanaugh would have the ability to listen, not necessarily from the same room. I agree with Professor Ford's lawyers on that. He shouldn't be in the room. But then he would come in and he'd be in a position to answer the questions, rebut the charges, having heard them. If he hasn't heard them, there's no fairness to the process. He needs to hear them first. And I think Chairman Grassley has already indicated the Senate is not going to go along with letting her go second. They're going to do it the standard way. The accuser goes first.
Fair point there from Ari Fleischer. Judge Kavanaugh reiterating he's willing to testify as early as possible to defend his integrity.
Pete, the FBI now opening a terror investigation after a student pilot is charged with trying to steal a plane from a Florida airport. Very bizarre. Nishal Sanket is accused of hopping a fence and sneaking onto an empty passenger jet in Orlando. Technicians inside tackling the 22-year-old, but he broke free, running onto the tarmac before being arrested. Authorities now trying to figure out his motive. This happening more than a month after a baggage handler stole a plane from Seattle. You may remember that, crashing it into his death.
And an air pressure mix-up causes more than 30 passengers to start bleeding on a flight. The Jetway Airways flight forced to make an emergency landing in Mumbai, India, when passengers suddenly started experiencing ear pain and nosebleeds. The airline says the crew forgot to turn on the cabin's air pressure switch, a minor oversight. About 5 passengers suffered mild deafness. They will take more than a week to recover. Plus, this story, firefighters play a dangerous game of tug-of-war with a fire tornado. I didn't even know these things existed, showing their hose, they're literally their fire hose sucked into the sky by the 200-foot tall Twister in Canada. It was so hot that the hose melted in midair. Firefighters say the firenado also threw burning logs at them for 45 minutes. These flaming twisters occur when extremely hot air blows through a fire at a certain angle, causing a spinning momentum. I'm going to ask Janice Dean more about that later.
Do not mess with Mother Nature. 3 fifth graders going viral for doing whatever it takes to protect Old Glory. This parent's picture shows one of them laying on the ground, making sure the American flag doesn't hit the ground. It is a sign of respect the boys take very seriously.
This is our nation's flag, our school's flag. It's how we represent our country.
Okay, that is the best story of the morning. The Idaho boys were taught how to properly fold the flag by their custodian, a 20-year Air Force veteran. So amazing. That's awesome. Good.
Super cool. And I mentioned it, and I got to ask it because why not? Janice, what is a firenado and how does it happen?
Well,
and then please tell us.
You did a great description there. You've got winds from different levels of the atmosphere causing a twisting motion, and that's, you know, it's kind of the same premise as a regular tornado that's formed because of a cold front, because of a clashing air mass. So the same type of idea, and a lot of these fires make their across those Great Lakes and the upper mid, or rather the interior Northeast, parts of Pennsylvania and upstate New York could see the potential for the hail, the damaging winds, and the isolated tornadoes. As well, the tail end of this cold front is bringing in a ton of moisture, portions of Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas. So that is going to be a flood threat. Speaking of flooding, the good news here is in North Carolina, we have a period of drying out, some dry days ahead, but the rivers and streams are still at major to historic flood stage, and they're going downstream. So South Carolina, parts of South Carolina are going to be concerned for the flooding threat. There is your forecast today. Again, the tail end of that cold front bringing heavy rain across portions of Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas, as well as the severe threat for the interior Northeast and the Great Lakes. And the first day of fall officially arrives tomorrow. That's
Happy
exciting.
trombones.
Happy trombones. Yes, and we'll get a little taste of fall, 75 in New York City on Saturday.
Love it. Janice,
I like
thanks a lot.
sweater weather.
Right? Sweater
Yes.
weather.
I like
Football,
short weather.
Thanksgiving.
Yes, everything
You like short
good.
weather? What about shorts and a sweatshirt? That's my dad's favorite
I
outfit.
like that. I like that.
Do you wear that too?
Not really.
Oh.
It's kind of dad outfit.
I was
don't feel like I'm
excited
there
for a
yet.
Do you
moment.
think he wears dad outfits? Please. Please. All right. Thanks,
Thank you,
Janice. The time is now 40 minutes after the hour. Plane ticket prices expensive enough. Now airlines want to charge you even more just to change a flight. The billion-dollar battle that's now headed to Washington.
Plus, rushing to judgment. Time magazine showing Brett Kavanaugh in Justice Clarence Thomas's shadow. They're never subtle. The controversial cover creating a firestorm online. And Carly, she's here to share your comments.
Hey.
Another one's done. Another one bites the dust. Hey, we're gonna get to do another one bites.
She deserves an FBI investigation, just as Anita Hill was given. So as you can see, reaction supporting both sides. But of course, clearly this case, both captivating, consuming, and dividing the nation.
And setting some dangerous precedents a bit. If you're guilty until proven innocent, the internet points out you should have your day in court on both sides. You got another story for us, though. Google, their employees, they've been tweaking the search function a little bit?
Right. So according to a Wall Street Journal report, 2 days after the president signed his controversial travel ban, Google employees discussed over emails way to kind of tinker with the search function to highlight information that opposes that travel ban. So those ideas include showing users how to donate to pro-immigration organizations, as well as actively countering searches that would produce anti-Islamic and anti-Hispanic search results. Now, one Google employee said over Facebook, "I think this is the sort of super timely and imperative information that we need, as we know that this country and Google would not exist without immigration." Well, Google responded in a statement saying these emails were just a brainstorm of ideas, none of which were ever implemented. Google has never manipulated its search results or modified any of its products to promote a particular political ideology. So they're basically saying, oh, we were just spitballing here. None of these things were ever implemented. Well, Tom on Facebook or Twitter rather says, very troubling if this is true. And another user pointing out, time to move to a different search engine. The question is, which search engine? Because Google controls 90% of internet searches.
Well, that's right. It's tough to go somewhere else when it controls so much.
Right. It is. And you know, there's even that saying, just Google it. It's got its own
and you
saying.
want to look at that empty bar.
It's not even let's look it up anymore. You're right, Jackie. It's let's Google it.
It's true. Carly, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Carly.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right, now let's check in with Ed Henry to see what's coming up on Fox and Friends. What's up, buddy?
Hey, guys, good to see you. Coming up, Missouri Attorney General Josh Hawley on Trump's visit to his state. Remember, he's out on the campaign trail, was out in Nevada last night. You also have Missouri, a big Senate race. We're also going to talk to Alan Dershowitz, Kim Strassel of the Wall Street Journal, Diamond and Silk. Plus, you're going to love this story. 2 Marines run straight into a raging inferno to save senior citizens trapped inside. These 2 brave American heroes join us live on that incredible rescue. You know, Jackie, Pete and I are going to have 8 hours together this weekend. I simply can't wait to spend that much time with Pete. But first, we have 3 hours of freedom, 3 hours of celebrating America right here.
She's stuck with me for 14 minutes.
This 1 hour has just been really
insufferable.
Amazing. Thank you.
Ed, thanks a lot.
Thanks. Have a great day, Ed. All right, don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Well, airlines are fighting to keep control of how much they charge passengers to change flights. Congress is negotiating a bill that could impose limits on those fees, which add up to about $3 million a year, a couple $100,000, which might be mine. So you can imagine airlines are not happy about getting Congress involved. If the provision passes, airlines could be forced to remove the option that allows customers to change their tickets.
And you may soon be able to cook popcorn just by using your voice. Amazon unveiling 70 new devices and capabilities for its Alexa product line. They include an Amazon-branded microwave clock and a smart plug-in. The new gadget will be connected to the internet, working to make the most basic of tasks controlled by your voice. Just what we need.
Yeah.
More robots. Amazon's goal is to beat out its main competitor, Google, by making Alexa products central to home life. I got rid of all my Alexas.
I want no part of that at all.
It's creepy.
Anyway, a new bill is being pushed in Pennsylvania to ban politics in the classroom with a new teacher code of ethics.
Supporters of the bill say political indoctrination isn't the reason parents send their kids to school, but is this the right move?
Joining us now is the lawmaker who introduced the bill, Pennsylvania State Representative Will Tallman. Will, thank you very much for joining us this morning. So I am empathetic to your cause. The indoctrination at the young age of kids in our public schools is a real problem. But do you do it by banning what teachers can say?
Well, and good morning from Pennsylvania. And what I would like to do is actually bring it to a more balanced position, I guess I would say. And so today in our classrooms, the teacher is the ultimate authority in a classroom, and the students, are captive. That's a captive audience. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to bring it to a more balanced position.
What do you say to people who say this is unconstitutional?
Well, I understand the First Amendment rights, and I don't want to infringe on anyone's First Amendment rights. So I'm probably, like I said, the bill, contrary to some folks, what they're saying is it is not introduced. It's not even a bill. It's a draft.
But
and so we may need to tweak some of the First Amendment, although it's been looked at by a constitutional attorney who said it really doesn't infringe.
You want to strip out the politics. Your fear is that when it's from controversial subject matter to advocating for certain points of view, and I assume mostly you feel like this is coming from the left, but you just don't want any party platform involved in the classroom. That's what you're trying to get rid of.
Well, what I would like to do, and I'm just going to use the example here in Pennsylvania, we have Governor Wolf and Senator Wagner in this year's election vying for the governorship. So what I don't want a teacher in the classroom in 7th grade, let's say, and telling their students, go home and advocate for either one, Wagner or Wolf. So that's kind of where I'm at.
In 15 seconds, can you tell me what would happen to a teacher if they broke this?
Well, the way right now in the draft, they're going to file their complaint with the school board.
Okay.
And allow the school board to deal with it at the local level.
That makes sense. Keep it as local as possible. Well, good luck with your bill. Keep us posted on it. Certainly understand the ethos behind it. State Representative Will Tallman. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it.
We're about 6 minutes to the top of the hour. Country music star Carrie Underwood just received one of her highest honors yet.
U.S. money